You are now listening to Asking for a Friend with TalkDoc, sharing insights through real, honest, and practical ways to improve your communication and relationships. Featuring your hosts, Dr. Pamela Kreiser, Meredith Edwards-Nagel, and Teighlor Polindo.
On our part 3 of the series looking at Brené Brown's book, Atlas of the Heart. It was published in 2021. Put some info in the show notes about that there. And we are looking today at the TalkDocs chapter, which is going to be chapter 11, called The Places We Go When Life is Good. And that's about joy, happiness, calm, contentment, gratitude, foreboding joy, relief, and tranquility. Before we let the TalkDoc jump in here, Teighlor and I are going to tell you all why we even picked this chapter for this lovely one. So Teighlor, you want to go first?
I picked this for her because I need her to teach me how to have these things in my life. But then also from knowing you, I think you truly are a joyful and happy person. I think you've made an incredibly beautiful life for yourself and your family. And that did not come easy. I think you work really hard for that. I think you're intentional by doing that. So yeah, I'm ready to have that imparted on us on how to do that.
And remember, you didn't know me when I had small children.
Touche.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
So maybe there's joy and happiness left for you, both of you. There might be still there.
Left for us. Thank you. I appreciate that.
That gives us.
I like this. Actually, something just hit me about this chapter. About it at first, when I thought about getting ready today, I thought about foreboding joy. Teach me how to resist this. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
But I think what it is for me in this chapter for you, Dr. K, is I think you have worked hard at tranquility in your life. And that is fascinating to me because I struggle with thinking that finding tranquility means laziness. And I think you have this piece about you with being a really hardworking and driven competitive person. And so I want to get into that with you a little bit.
All right. I don't know that I identified as much with tranquility.
Okay.
So should we start there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Brené Brown says that tranquility is associated with the absence of demand and no pressure to do anything. And I thought maybe the key takeaway there is the pressure not to do anything. One of the things that she contrasts it with is contentment. So contentment is when we've completed something. So we have that to hold on to that is associated with the contentment. But tranquility is the feeling of doing nothing. And so my question back to you, Mare, is why would you say that about me? Because I'm crazy.
No, I agree that you're crazy. And I thought that contentment would definitely be you because you accomplish, you kick ass, you win when you compete professionally and personally. But it's the relishing the feeling of doing nothing. And maybe it's that I see that you go hard in life, personally and professionally, but then I've watched you relish in, for lack of a better way of saying this, like the pleasures that life gives you. You work really hard, I see in your marriage and your motherhood, and you relish really well with those people of the doing nothing and just enjoying your life with them. And maybe that's where my focus.
I didn't see this in me how you saw it, but I will make one admission. And that is
a glass of wine.
Every day, every time I write my list. What'd you say?
You relish in a glass of wine. That was part of it too.
I don't know, but maybe. But every day on my list of things to do, I have go to the pool. Every day. And I don't always make it, but it's on there every day. And you know what I do when I go to the pool? I float on a raft.
You don't swim?
I do swim sometimes, but I'm always...
To tranquil time?
Yeah, it's just chill. Just... Because floating to me equals tranquility. I'm a big advocate of floating. But that's just like my hour.
I didn't know this about you. And now anytime I need to find some tranquility in myself, I'm going to picture you floating on a raft. And I'm just really happy.
You need to come and float with me.
That's what we're doing next time we're together.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm going to write it down.
Believer.
It's a thing we're going to do.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about joy and happiness because that's how Brené Brown starts this chapter. And I think maybe we talk about these interchangeably at times. She does not see them as the same. So she says joy is the sudden, unexpected, short-lasting, high-intensity emotion. Happiness is the stable, longer-lasting emotion. I thought the distinction for me is that joy came from connection with something outside of us, and happiness came as a result of something we did.
Okay, that's literally what I was thinking. When I think of joy, it's more about the relationships in my life. I think I have joy with my husband. and I have joy with certain friendships and with family, but I am not in a state of happiness with my husband 24/7. We're not just like giggling all the time. But there is this very positive emotion there. But I think of happiness as the things that I do in my life. It's more things that I'm doing myself.
Okay, but that's what's confusing me, though. I agree with you. I'm resonating with all of this. But why does she say joy is short lasting and happiness is longer? That's where I'm flip-flopping that.
Remember, she talks about what Robertson says, which is a good mood of the soul. That's what joy is.
Yeah.
So if joy is a good mood of the soul, it's a temporary thing that shows up in connection moments, connection with others, with God, with nature, or the universe. It's that moment you sit on a cliff and look at the sunset, and it doesn't last forever, but it's this moment where you go, wow, look at that.
Yeah, I resonate with that.
Or that moment where you have this connection to God, or you have this connection to someone else. But I don't think it's this long-standing thing. It's a good mood of the soul.
Yeah.
So then if you have a baby, are you joyful or are you happy?
Joyful. Yeah.
Because it's a moment, right? I don't think you think, oh, I did a great job in labor, therefore I'm happy. It's not the effort. This is a magical moment. I just met my child.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll have that for the rest of your life. But every interaction with them will not be happy.
Oh, true. They seem to be special moments of connection is how I thought of it. So I made a list of a couple things that I would say are joyful for me. So I wrote down a birth of a baby. That's a joyful thing. I wrote down a moment of feeling fully heard by someone. And I wrote moments of lectures, but not what I said, what somebody else said in my classroom. Those are moments you can't plan for as a teacher. But we're all connecting on the material or with each other in that moment that's magical, is what I describe it as.
And there's a big part of being vulnerable, right? Like a lot of those moments are very vulnerable for you to open your classroom to a stranger to share whatever they want. There's some vulnerability there as a teacher. You can't control a birth story. That's very vulnerable.
I really like that word control. When I first started teaching, I used to try to control all of the content in the classroom. I had just gotten my first college teaching job at 21, and I was a little bit nervous about how that was going to go. I planned it down to the T. And if I asked a question, I knew the answer I was looking for, right? And what I didn't realize is I would never become a great teacher until I let go of the entire control. So it was much more important that I just knew the material and said, I'll be brave and let it go where it needs to go. And that was probably a couple of years into teaching where I realized that I had to not engineer the outcomes, because where we would go together would be far more important.
Like you can take that to any relationship.
So it was about connecting and less about controlling. So I like that you brought that word up because I think that hits home for me. So one thing that she talks a lot about at the beginning of the chapter is state versus trait characteristics. When we talk about something as being trait-like, it means that we have this characteristic across different scenarios. When we say something is state-like, it's context specific. It's something that happens in that one situation. So the question is, are you joyful and happy trait? Is that something that you have across a lot of areas of your life? Or do you have it only in certain places?
But if it's a trait, is that something inherent to you or it's practiced and learned?
Probably inherent. Trait is usually a combination of personality, experience, genetics.
So you're just kind of fucked if you didn't get it?
No, I think yes, and that the episode's over.
Okay, so are we talking about kind of those people, we call them Eeyores?
Oh, yes.
They don't have the trait of happiness. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
I feel like people that complain a lot fall into that category for me. Just complain to complain.
Oh, now that's a great connection, Meredith. That's a great connection because she says a lot about gratitude. So when you talk about complaining, that's being ungrateful.
I think that's why it bothers me so much.
Complaining?
Yeah.
When people complain to you?
Just to complain. I don't mind if you have a complaint and you're looking for like problem solving or you need to vent to be heard or something. Yeah. But sometimes when people just complain just to complain, I'm working hard to talk about solutions with you or hear you out, but I just think you're just doing this to do it, and I don't want to listen anymore. It's like
That's
because you feel the ungrateful spirit or something.
Yeah, and I think the complainer cancels out the effort. So you go to make the meal, and then the complainer says it's not hot. Yeah, some kind of complaining thing. And I think that is not only the opposite of gratefulness, it cancels out that effort that the happiness is associated with, because there's no acknowledgement of it.
I notice that when I have less joy or definitely less happiness in myself, I have a super increase in discontentment. So I'm wondering, what does that say about me? Why can my contentment fluctuate so much? Is it because I need more stability in my happiness, or need to put in more effort in that? Or is it just a season of life I'm in with little people in my house?
Little needy people. So contentment is about satisfaction. And that's the feeling of completeness, appreciation, or I think more importantly, enoughness. I'm enough, or this is good enough. So I found the most interesting part of that section was when they talked about variance, which of course that would be the most interesting part of that section for me.
Oh my gosh.
She says contentment is 71% of the variance of life satisfaction. That means that when we measure life satisfaction, if you think about it as a circle, 71% of that circle is associated with contentment. They're that tied together. So a change in contentment up brings 71% of it up, and a change in contentment down brings 71% of that life satisfaction down.
What you're saying is when you're unhappy, you feel like you're not content. But if you really look at your life and you take stock and you say, am I content with my husband? Am I content with my kids? Am I content with my home? Am I content with these life choices? I think you would say yes to all of those things, but it doesn't mean that you feel happy in this moment. But
maybe because she says, if you think about it, we're surrounded by scarcity, right? So we're always trying to feel this enoughness. Like, do I have enough? And I think you're right, Teighlor. In big picture stuff, I think I definitely feel content. I think when my happiness wanes, or when I'm in a season that's hard, I think maybe what I'm trying to check in on myself, or why I tick this way, is why do I seek to fill in other ways then? Do I need this? Whether it's like an object even. I don't like to say that. I feel like it's embarrassing. Oh yeah, I need this thing for my house, or because I don't have enough here, or to try to fill that space instead of maybe put in more effort to find happiness in that moment. Like create happiness instead of focusing on filling an area or contentment in that moment. Does that make sense? I can do the big picture. It's more just I'm thinking like day to day. I feel like when my happiness is low, I go to fill up my bucket maybe in the wrong place.
I think what Brene Brown would say is gratitude's the key to the entire thing. She says gratitude is an emotion that reflects our deep appreciation for what we value, what brings meaning to our lives, and what makes us feel connected to ourselves and others. That's what you said, Teighlor. Because you said when you take stock of those things, then you're engaging in a practice of gratefulness.
Yeah. And I relate with you, Mary. I don't want you to think you're alone in that, because if I'm unhappy, I'll tend to reevaluate so many things. And I'm like, life's the worst. And then I have to take stock of the big things. And actually, I wouldn't change any of that. So what is it that I can change, or what is it I'm not happy with? And then go from there. But I just want you to know you're not alone in that. And
100%
crazy.
But too. I think maybe you are practicing gratitude without realizing it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Remember, deep appreciation for what we value, what brings meaning to our lives, and what makes us feel connected to ourselves and others.
Yeah.
And so she goes pretty far in this chapter to say gratitude's not only pretty important, it has some very big effects on us. She talks about it being good for us physically, emotionally, and mentally. And it's correlated with better sleep, increased creativity, decreased entitlement, which is amazing, decreased hostility and aggression, increased decision-making, and decreased blood pressure. If you think about that as just one pill, it's a pretty damn good pill.
Yeah.
I want it.
Okay, that really brings us to a quiz, honestly, about gratitude. So welcome to my quiz on gratitude.
Why did we not expect this, Teighlor? Why didn't we talk about this?
We haven't had a
It's
quiz.
been so long. We were like sitting ducks.
But of course, it's on her chapter. We should have known this was coming.
No, it's 100% was coming. It's the first thing I did.
All right. I'm grateful to win.
Okay, so question number 1. In what month is World Gratitude Day?
I'm guessing it's not Thanksgiving. World Gratitude Day. I want to go with February.
Okay.
Is it November? I don't know.
May.
No, you're both wrong. September. Actually, World Gratitude Day is September 21st.
Do you remember?
Every year. We missed it. We're still very grateful, though.
Yeah.
I think you need to be grateful for summer. Okay, question number 2. What percentage of women said they express gratitude on a regular basis?
67.
What percentage?
Higher, lower. 42.
It's 52. Okay, Taylor's got one. All right. This is one of my favorite questions. So in a study on gratitude journaling, results showed that regular journaling for about 5 minutes a day has been shown to result in 5 to 15% increase in optimism. And what percentage of increase in sleep quality?
I'm going to go with 20.
12.
25.
Wow. That's a lot.
I think that means Taylor won the quiz.
Finally.
She says it every time she wins. She says, finally.
I don't think it's that often, you guys.
I just hope that you're experiencing joy.
So much. Cheers, friends.
Oh, man.
Okay. All right. So the journaling, that's interesting.
5
That'll
minutes.
help us
That's
sleep
not
better.
long.
No. Because probably when you think about what you want to write down, only positive things.
You're writing down 5 minutes what you're grateful for.
Oh, I thought if you just journal 5 minutes a day, you have to intentionally journal gratitude.
It's called gratitude journaling.
Oh, pays attention to detail.
It's a really interesting idea because I thought, wow, doing something for 5 minutes changes your sleep quality by 25%. Wow.
Dang, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty significant.
Right.
Agreeing the time.
If you had 5 minutes, you could do it, Taylor. With
talk to
3
text
small
it.
children, you have maybe 1 minute of journaling you can do while you're running after one child.
Real question, though. At what point will I go to the bathroom by myself again? This is my question.
It's going to be a little while longer.
I
found with 3 kids, sometimes you went to the bathroom with one to protect that one.
Yes. I carried one in today. That's so
because you're like, I'm not sure the other 2. I don't trust you with this baby.
I love it. Oh, man. All right. Meredith, though, we see her on the other side. We can get through this.
The other side is more than survival.
Yeah. It seems that practicing gratitude, writing it down, talking about it, I'm sure would have a positive effect. But how challenging it is when you're not feeling it in the moment to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that in the moment at this time in my life, but I'd like to start the day or end the day like that so that it can try to carry me through the day or catch me in the middle.
Both of you have small children. Don't you think you have these moments of gratitude / joy that appear? So you're with the kids and all of a sudden they're like, wow, look at that tree.
Oh, God,
okay, so there's this video and it's like from the perspective of the mother, and it's all these like hard moments, like fighting to get them to buckle in their seatbelt, like come sit down, let me help you. No, I want to do it. And it's just all these little cuts of her day and it's all the hard moments. And then they cut to the kid and her day. And it was all these little moments, but like the magical moments in those very moments. Oh, the second they touched your face, and then you had a little secret to tell each other. You had a little game. And it was the same day, 2 different people, but just their perspectives have changed.
Yeah.
And I feel like I get so stuck on the mom, I'm just trying to get shit done. And I don't have time to stop and do these little things. But if you give up and give into the presence of children, because they are so very present, then you can have those little moments. I'm not great about that, but that is an area for improvement.
That reminds me of that famous cartoon called Why the Dog's Happier. And it's an owner looking at a sunset and the dog's next to the owner. And it has a bubble of what the owner's thinking about: work, bills, all these negative things. And then the dog just has a picture of them 2 together.
Yeah.
We used to always joke about that cartoon because it's true. If you had the focus, we're just together and I'm not thinking about bills and I'm not thinking about these other things, which just goes back to the tranquility idea of not needing to be anywhere, be thinking about anything, not being elsewhere.
Yeah.
This made me think of a joyful moment. We've been doing this thing at the dinner table. We say, "What's the favorite part of your day?" Just to get my daughter to reflect on her day. And she's now she brought up the question to us. Like for the first time, we didn't ask it. And she just said, "What's the favorite part of your day?" And so we answered, and then we asked her, and then she looked at us, and she goes, "You." I was like, "Okay, get it together."
So sweet.
Oh man. Yeah. No, for sure. It's a massive roller coaster of joy, gratitude. Also, where's the happiness sometimes, but which is interesting because there's two other topics in this chapter. One is calm, and the other is foreboding joy that I'm thinking of now. And calm is, for me, why I knew I should marry my husband. There is going to be discontentment. There's going to be chaos. This person is leading me to calm. Pick them for the first time. And then the foreboding joy for me is interesting. We're talking about this with young children, which is because I have so much joy in a day. And then sometimes, no, don't allow it. Push it away out of fear. She says, we lose our tolerance for vulnerability. So then I looked up what foreboding means. My understanding of it is it's a fearful pushing away of something on purpose, that there is joy to be had. And instead of being vulnerable and leaning into this really big emotion, we knowingly push it away from us because we can't go there. So sometimes I will have moments.
Instead of being in that moment, you start thinking of she says dress rehearsal, the tragedy. It's imaginary. But what it does is it steers us away from vulnerability so that we're not in that moment saying, I'm joyful in this moment. She describes years ago talking about driving home from somewhere with her children, and she thought, oh, it's so nice, and the kids are happy in the back, and we're all laughing as a family. And then she went, oh my God, what if we get in a car crash? And then what if something happens to one of the children, and just goes down that whole path? How would I act? How would they act? What would happen? And just literally spinning out that entire thing instead of just being in the moment.
Would it also be if you're in the car with your kids and then you're like, oh, one day they're going to leave me. We're not going to be together on family trips anymore. Is it the reality that is true also? Or it's just this imaginary worst case scenario?
I think that is imaginary, what you just said, technically. Will they leave you?
But you won't all be living together in the same house anymore. Or at some point, they're not going to be little enough for you to hold them. You're holding your sleeping child. And at some point, I won't be able to do this forever.
Your kids are never moving out, for one.
They've told me that.
They have a really nice house. I would not leave. I'm going to tell them, do not leave. It's too good. Now, I think there's the idea of the realistic progression of the maturity of children or things that naturally progress in life. I don't know that's this.
Okay.
I think this is more what you said, where what if you never have dinner with me again when you're an adult? It's more of a made up thing, because she talks about it in the following way. She says, we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. We start to dress rehearse tragedy in the best moments of our lives in order to stop vulnerability from beating us to the punch.
Right.
So here's the good news, though, that she says in this section. We found that everyone who had a deep capacity for joy had one thing in common. They practiced gratitude. Maybe the challenge to fend off foreboding joy is in those moments, I have to refocus from this foreboding joy, and I have to focus on my gratitude. Be thankful for this family dinner, or thankful for this beautiful sunset, or thankful for the fact that my little daughter just turned up and said to me that my favorite part of my day is you, Mom. It's very sweet. And maybe the perspective on gratitude is this, that we don't necessarily work out the future math. Instead, we're in that moment saying, that's really great today.
That's, I think, really a helpful thing to think what you just said. I know that's very data of you, but to not work not work out future math. But I'm nerding out on that with you for a moment.
Love it.
A way to resist this is to not try to go through the what if scenarios a million times over, or do the math in your head about all these random possibilities that would be awful, and then turn your head instead on purpose. You have to notice when you do that, and think of why you're thankful in that moment. And it can take you back then to experiencing joy. Which is great because now that's the possibility of inviting more joy into my life, which is wonderful and much more vulnerable.
But I think it goes to that idea of being present with yourself and saying, I'm going to just for this moment be so happy with this thing that I'm observing or thing I've just noticed or thing that just happened between us or this interaction we're having, and not adding it up to, oh, I hope we don't die without ever having another meaningful conversation. You could go all of those rabbit holes, instead thinking, no, right now, this is great, and take it in.
And I feel like what goes along with that is what they said about being calm is that calm is contagious. Anxiety is contagious as well. So which one do you want to be?
Yeah.
And
for sure. I love that you brought
think
that
about
up.
that in the power that I have of, I think I can really shape an event. I feel like I have great power to make an experience for people and trying to reel that in. And what is it that I want to leave people with? And I don't want to be negative and I don't want to be anxious, and like to have a tranquil, calm environment.
Do people think of you as calm?
I have no idea. What do you think? What do you think I'm calm? I have no idea.
I'd say so.
Meredith?
I think you definitely can go there. I think the place in life that we're in, there's so much little people noise that never stops. And it's really hard to come back to that place. I've seen you go there. I know that you can. And I think you do it well in your adult relationships.
You want to distinguish calm from quiet. There's a difference between calm and quiet. Calm, which basically contrasts calm with, is freaking out. The opposite of calm is freaking out.
Sorry, I'm saying I think there is actually so much noise around us on a day-to-day that it is hard to create a presence of calm. It's hard to be intentionally calm. Teighlor, I think you create calm with your adult relationships for sure. It's not a bad thing. I think I can see that it's really hard for you to create that with the motherhood noise around you.
So calm is creating perspective and mindfulness while managing emotional reactivity.
Yeah, like that's really hard with toddlers.
So here's what she says. I don't know. You don't seem, either of you, like you're freak out people, but I haven't seen it anyway. But she has these 2 questions that she asks herself.
Yeah, I like this.
Before she freaks out.
Yes.
And here's the first one. She says, do I have enough information to freak out? She says, usually not. And will freaking out help? And I would guess with the toddlers, that would only make it more noisy.
She says it's an intention, right? Do we want to give people anxiety, or do we want to heal people around us or ourselves with this calm nature? And I'm wondering how I'm doing that as a mother right now. I have to be mindful of it throughout the day. How do I do that? So if I am not in a general position of choosing calm, what can I do to be more mindful and to go to that place? I'm honestly asking.
I honestly take breaths.
Yeah, talks about that actually. Breathing's related. Does it work, Teighlor?
Yeah. My middle toddler, he gets hurt or frustrated or whatever, and he just wants to bury himself under a blanket and kind of scream and cry. But can we do anything to help you? I'm like, it seems like you want comfort. Can I comfort you? Are you hurt? Are you sad? I'll ask all these questions. And ultimately, I just have to scoop him up and say, will you blow out candles with me? Do you want to blow it out or you want me to? And he says, you. And so then I blow some out because I can very much get heightened with him. Well, stop. Like I'm trying to make you stop, but then I just go heightened too. So I'll just start blowing out candles with him on my fingers.
I'm going to try that because I've been trying to do modeling, take a deep breath, or even sometimes say, can we take a deep breath? And she yells at me, don't want to breathe. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's helpful.
Maybe the image like this. So asking, do you have enough information to freak out? And will freaking out help? Probably no. Or a visual. I like this visual, like blowing out a candle. I think because I'm a visual person, that's helpful.
I like it. For me, in this chapter, what I would say is, as much as she defines the different emotions and places where we go when life is good, So whether that's happiness or contentment or whatever, the one thing that was clearly woven through all of those was this idea of gratitude.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's because the focus is suddenly off of ourselves, because gratitude inherently isn't, oh, I'm so glad I'm so great. It's, I'm glad that this other thing, you made this meal because I'm grateful for it, or because you are so kind, or I'm grateful for this beautiful mountain that I'm standing on, or whatever it is, but it's not me that did it.
Right.
And I think that practice, as much as we're in as a society to selfies and self-focus, there's something about the gratitude that keeps lifting up all of these other items that are in the chapter. And as soon as they're paired with gratitude, they're resolved. And so maybe the takeaway is to do a little gratitude check, and maybe even consider doing the 5-minute gratitude journal. And I don't even know if you have to write that down, but when your head hits the pillow, you could think of a couple things you're grateful for, and you might get a little better sleep. Once again, thank you for joining us today. Please remember to rate, share, and subscribe to our podcast. And thank you for listening to Asking for a Friend.
Let us know what you thought of the episode. Our email is hello@afafpodcast.com. This show is for educational purposes only and is copyrighted. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting. Thanks for listening to Asking for a Friend with TalkDoc.